India has initiated a conflict against China, but this is not a traditional battlefield war. Instead, it is an economic battle. India has emerged as a rising powerhouse in Asia, strategically countering China's aggressive actions. New Delhi has positioned itself as an alternative for companies tired of being used as pawns in China's global ambitions. Major corporations like Apple are already shifting their operations to India, preparing for a post-China world. India has also launched its own global projects to counter China's growing influence, particularly in response to the Belt and Road Initiative. Prime Minister Modi has implemented India's lending program for neighboring countries, aiming to prevent China from gaining influence through debt trap diplomacy. Let's now delve into how India became China's greatest threat. The head of MI6 previously accused China of using debt traps to exert leverage over other nations. For instance, Sri Lanka received substantial loans, including a significant amount from China, which ultimately led to a credit line agreement with India. India has been proactive in providing assistance to Seychelles, gifting patrol vessels, while China is granting a substantial loan to Pakistan to support their dwindling foreign exchange reserves. Historically, India and China were allies, with a strong economic partnership. The Silk Road connected their cities, fostering trade and contributing to the growth of both civilizations. Despite facing colonization, Indian leaders publicly supported China's struggle against the Japanese in 1939. Likewise, China supported India's independence movement against the British. India gained independence in 1947, while the People's Republic of China came into power in 1949. Initially, India maintained friendly relations with the Republic of China, (IFROC). However, when the People's Republic of China, (PRC), led by Mao Zedong took control of mainland China, India was among the first countries to recognize it as the official government. Indian Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru visited China in 1954, describing the visit as a crucial foreign mission. Both countries shared a vision of depending on each other to achieve economic growth and improve the living conditions of their citizens. They jointly advocated for the 5 principles of peaceful coexistence. However, the peace was short-lived. The CCP's forcible takeover of Tibet in 1950 and subsequent repression of its people raised tensions. India, having a friendly relationship with Tibet, chose not to intervene to avoid a war with China. Mao, paranoid about India colluding with the USA and USSR to overthrow Chinese leadership, became increasingly aggressive. In 1959, the Dalai Lama sought asylum in India, further fueling Mao's hostility. The Chinese encroached on India's borders, leading to clashes in multiple locations. It is important to note a significant border issue related to the McMahon Line. In 1914, representatives from Britain, China, and Tibet met to determine Tibet's status. While China agreed to allow Tibet autonomy, they refused to formalize it in a treaty. Instead, Britain and Tibet signed the McMahon Line Treaty, which India recognizes as the legal border between India and Tibet. However, China rejects this line and has continuously pushed the boundaries since 1959, leading to ongoing conflicts and military buildup on both sides. In 1962, Chinese soldiers made the discovery of an Indian outpost within what they believed to be China's borders. Mao, upon receiving this news, considered it to be the final straw and decided to send a large number of soldiers secretly to both the eastern and western sides of the disputed borders. The People's Liberation Army swiftly launched an attack on both fronts, catching the outnumbered and inexperienced Indian soldiers off guard. Having gained significant combat experience from previous wars, such as those in Korea, Vietnam, and Taiwan, the PLA inflicted a humiliating defeat on the Indian troops, resulting in the capture of a considerable portion of Indian territory. In response, India attempted a counter-offensive by deploying additional soldiers. However, Mao was prepared for this and easily suppressed their efforts. Consequently, India sought military assistance from the United States to reclaim its lost territory. During this time, the USA and the Soviet Union were the only 2 countries possessing nuclear weapons. Surprisingly, they both shared the view that China was the aggressor in this conflict. Fearing the consequences of a nuclear confrontation, China withdrew the majority of its troops from Indian territory. Nevertheless, the CCP decided to maintain control over a section of Indian territory in the Aksai Chin region. where they had constructed a road connecting Xianchang to Lhasa. This issue remains unresolved to this day. Apart from reclaiming territory, Mao's ideological objective behind this attack was to prevent India from aligning with the USA during the Cold War. His intention was to demonstrate China's superior strength in order to deter India from taking actions that might anger China. Ironically, this attack had the opposite effect, bringing India and the United States closer together, as they now shared a common adversary in China. The conflict also led to a shift in the borders between India and China, further complicating matters. In 1967, another war broke out, and this time India managed to push back some of the Chinese soldiers and regain a portion of its lost territories. This altered the territories controlled by China compared to what they believed to be theirs. China maintains that everything it claimed in 1962 is part of its territory, but it lost some of it in 1967. India continues to adhere to the McMahon Line Agreement and considers China's occupation of Indian territory to be illegal. These historical events form the backdrop for the ongoing clashes between India and China. Both countries have deployed soldiers to patrol the disputed region, and their differing interpretations of the border further contribute to the potential for conflicts. This volatile situation underscores the underlying tensions between India and China. Fortunately, both countries are aware of the risks involved. However, China has shown reluctance to engage in peaceful negotiations regarding the border dispute, though they did agree to prohibit the use of military weapons by their soldiers, resulting in a no-firearms zone along the 2-mile strip surrounding the line of actual control. These border disputes are a significant source of bitterness between India and China. However, the problems extend beyond territorial conflicts. As China's economy grew, its ambitions on the global stage expanded. After Mao's era, Deng Xiaoping's open-door policy transformed China into a manufacturing hub and lifted millions of people out of poverty. China's economic success propelled it to become the world's second-largest economy. Yet as the population aged and growth from foreign manufacturing slowed down, the CCP needed to seek alternative sources of future growth. This led to Xi Jinping's rise to power as the new president and commander-in-chief of the People's Liberation Army. Jinping initiated the Belt and Road Initiative, BRI, an unprecedented project aimed at enhancing China's global influence. Through the BRI, China provided loans to economically struggling nations under the guise of assistance, while in reality, gaining control over countries with valuable resources or strategic locations. China's motivation for pursuing this strategy stems from its belief that it needs to strengthen itself and minimize its vulnerabilities in order to survive. China's economy is heavily reliant on exports, particularly to Western countries, with the USA being its largest export partner. Additionally, China is a major importer of oil, with a significant portion flowing through the Strait of Malacca, a crucial choke point in the Indian Ocean. The vulnerability of this strategic passage poses a risk for China in the event of a war or political disagreement, especially considering the presence of potential adversaries such as India or the USA. Therefore, China's push for increased global influence and its encirclement of India through projects like the Belt and Road Initiative serve as measures to protect its economy and secure resources. However, this approach has intensified the bitterness between India and China, with India feeling marginalized by China's expanding influence. China faces significant challenges in obtaining energy to support its economy and potential military operations due to limited access to certain routes. In the modern world, oil serves as the lifeblood of economies and governments. To address this issue, China has devised its own solution by constructing an alternative route through the Belt and Road Initiative. By building pipelines in Myanmar and Pakistan, China has established a connection from the coast to inner regions of the country. Additionally, it has secured long-term port leases in Pakistan and Sri Lanka. Notably, China has also established a military base in Djibouti, strategically positioned to control the vital Bab el-Mandeb Strait, which connects the Red Sea to the Indian Ocean. This strait serves as a critical passage for Persian Gulf and Asian exports en route to Western markets, with a substantial portion of global trade flowing through it. Adjacent to China's military base lies Camp Lemonnier, a mere 8 miles away. Military experts have observed that China's Belt and Road Initiative extends beyond its geo-economic implications, offering significant military and strategic advantages. The development of these ports, known as the String of Pearls, potentially allows the Chinese Navy to project power globally, a capability it lacked only a few years ago. This strategic maneuvering aims to encircle India and exert pressure on New Delhi, a fact acknowledged by India itself. Recognizing the importance of securing its economic interests, India has initiated measures to counter China's moves. India formed its own alliance, referred to as the Necklace of Diamonds, to encircle China strategically. It has expanded its naval bases and fostered improved relations with strategically positioned countries. Collaborations with Singapore and Indonesia have provided India access to their naval bases, namely Changi and Sabang, bolstering its presence in the crucial Strait of Malacca, a vital trade route for China and the rest of the world. India has also gained military access to the port of Duqm in Oman, facilitating its crude imports from the Persian Gulf. This Indian facility is strategically located between Djibouti in Africa and Gwadar in Pakistan, two crucial Chinese pearls. Additionally, India has signed an agreement with Seychelles for a naval base in the region, augmenting its influence near the African continent. Concurrently, India has extended credit lines to Iran and committed to constructing a port in the country, thereby expanding its access to trade routes in Central Asia. Furthermore, India has extended credit lines in Central Asia, including countries like Mongolia, with bilateral air corridor development in progress. Strengthened relations with Japan and Vietnam have also contributed to increased Indian trade and influence in China's periphery. Recognizing that regional efforts alone may not suffice, India has proactively pursued economic growth and sought to capitalize on the vulnerabilities exposed in China. The ongoing China-US trade war and the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic have prompted businesses to explore alternative manufacturing options beyond China. India, with its growing population, low labor costs, and English-speaking workforce, has emerged as an attractive destination. Companies like Apple have already relocated some production operations to India, reducing dependence on China. India has also taken steps to provide financial assistance to neighboring countries, mitigating their dependence on Chinese loans. Through these efforts, India aims to counter China's Belt and Road Initiative, prevent pro-Chinese governments from surrounding it, and safeguard its economic and military autonomy. While downplaying direct competition with China, India is determined not to be beholden to China's economic or military dominance. Recent border clashes between India and China underscore the tensions between the two nations, and India's proactive stance indicates its resolve to navigate geopolitical challenges effectively. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and like for more content.